Welcome. This is Civil Discourse Now. I'm Mark Small.
And I'm Paul Ogden.
We're here on another beautiful Saturday, August, what is it?
25th,
2012. 25th. These days tend to blend together. Paul, how are you today?
I'm doing fine. How are you doing, Mark?
Doing okay. Our guests today are Pat Andrews and Jeff Cox. We're going to talk about TIFs, which are tax increment finance districts. That'll be in segments 2, 3, and 4 of our show. But as we've been doing the last couple of months, we're going to do what's going on, which is just the first segment. We're talking about some current events that are happening, like now, because they're current. It makes sense. The first one, the one that people have talked about a lot this week, was Representative Todd Akin of Missouri, who's also a candidate for the United States Senate from Missouri, against Claire McCaskill, the Democratic incumbent, making, and this is objectively, an extraordinarily ignorant, prejudiced, biased, misinformed statement in which he referred to legitimate rape.
Correct, Mark. He made the comment, and I'm not sure what the form was, but he was talking about whenever you have the issue of abortion, you have the issue of exceptions. The polling on abortion's really mixed, 50-50 pretty much. But when you talk about should there be exceptions for rape, incest, threat to the life of the mother, the numbers are pretty strong that they should be. But on that issue, both the left and the right get pushed. There's not a lot of people in the middle. And he was trying to explain his belief that there should not be an exception for rape, and then he stepped on himself.
Well, and he actually co-sponsored a couple of measures with Representative Paul Ryan, who is the candidate for Vice President of the United States on the Republican ticket.
Ryan.
Yes, Ryan.
All right. Well, you put the enunciation on the last part of his name. I thought that was kind of...
Ryan.
I thought maybe we were doing a Murdoch thing there.
Oh, no, it's Murdoch. I'm not screwing around.
Right.
It's Mordor.
Well, you're talking about the human life amendment that a lot of Republicans support.
Which is a whole different show that we could do. But it wasn't the human life amendment. It was defining whether or not public funds could be used to provide poor women abortion services in the event of rape. And they put in their language such as forcible rape. And that kind of snowball. I know.
I don't get that. Rape by definition is forcible or non-consensual.
I think Ryan later on had to kind of backtrack on that and clarify himself. So it's been a pretty big negative impact on...
Akin was actually leading in the polls
by 8 points.
And now he's down 10 points. It'll be interesting to see whether that continues or not. The Republicans want him off the ticket because...
The Cook report calls him unelectable. And
Cook is pretty...
And they've declared Missouri solid for Claire McCaskill, who was probably the most vulnerable of the Democrat Senate incumbents.
Yeah.
Well, and I thought Richard Lugar was the most vulnerable of the Democratic Senate incumbent. That's the way they spin it.
That's how you joke.
He does a lot of sarcasm that everyone misses.
Is this going to affect the national campaign for president?
I don't think so. It's not a... Overall, the abortion issue is not... Very few people vote on that issue, and as many people who are pro-life vote, they were pro-choice, probably more.
It is affecting and it's keeping them from talking about what they want to talk about.
Well, that's true. That's a good point.
I think the abortion issue more creates an image. It's symbolic, at least on the Republican side, of something else. Todd Akin's comments, were idiotic, and the bigger problem than legitimate rape was that he said that there is some magical biological deal where a woman who is raped is somehow biologically prevented from having a child.
And it goes back to Dolores Umbridge in Harry Potter when she said, well, you couldn't possibly have a wand because only witches can have wands, and since you have a wand, you must have stolen it. And so it's this circular logic.
He wants to justify what I think is an indefensible position, which is that a woman who's been raped should be forced to have the rapist's baby.
And I agree with that, but I have heard that argument before, not that you can't get pregnant when you get raped, but that you're less likely
No, you are
I've
less
heard
likely,
that.
Paul,
Well, I
because
know I'm
you're a
less-
male. and
I'm
so
just
I
telling you
don't-
what I've heard. I don't
It's
know.
bad science.
It may
crap
well
that
be
was
bad
put
science.
out to try to.
Sort of like
It's-
global warming.
Yeah, it's no worse
to
than
change the subject.
anthropogenic glable warming, but
Okay,
it's bad.
Let's go to
It's junk
So we
science.
moved to global warming.
Second topic is
All right.
this week has been a rather active week, and I think that it's wrong to phrase the debate in terms of abortion. It's reproductive rights, because if you
right.
focus, so if we. This week was a great week for sports doping or sports doctoring, because 2 baseball players and Lance Armstrong all got caught up. 2 baseball players were suspended for 50 games for steroid use or human growth hormone use, and Lance Armstrong finally just gave up. He said, after all these years, you've been trying to bust me on this thing. Dude, I'm just tired. And what are they going to do? Are they going to sail over here and take his medals away
I
from
think they
him?
have airplanes now. Mark.
Well, they can't because the French really don't have a navy anymore.
Well, okay, so they're going to fly over here and walk up to his door and say, we demand that you give us the medals.
Isn't that like the only battle the French have won in the last 500 years or so?
Well, I think the last ones were probably under Napoleon. Did
But
they
he was
win
a
couple in
Corsican.
World War One?
The Germans pretty much.
No,
won that.
no. I think in the opening days of the war, there were a couple of battles where they were, because the French did an offensive on the right flank.
No, the Germans nearly took Paris in the first days of the war. The French had to put
Talking about one or
troops.
two.
One.
Won.
Yeah, the Germans nearly took Paris in the first days of World War I. The French had to put troops in taxis and send them to the front.
Yeah, but also the French had an offensive that they did at the German center, where they did win it. And anyways, so the baseball players now are not going to be caught, or sports figures, period, are going to be less likely to be caught for sports doping in the United States, because they're going overseas and getting stem cell work done.
And where did you hear this story? Is this on your current TV? You heard that, Mark?
No, actually.
And by the
and
way, is
Paul-
that playing now?
And Paul is
So Mark is the viewer for current TV?
Mark is the viewer.
actually
He's the
Paul,
viewer.
Paul is, because he's carrying around that little box whenever he's over here.
We're not allowed to talk about that, Mark.
Okay.
That I'm not carrying around any box
Okay.
of that you know about.
Not that I know of, but I read this on Yahoo.com, their page, and they were quoting a couple of sports sources who said, hey, athletes, Peyton Manning went overseas, and part of his work on his neck was embryonic stem cell research that for 8 years under George Bush, we banned, because we banned certain lines of stem cell research, and so in the name of religion, we fell behind egregiously the rest of the world.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily religion. There are other reasons to be against embryonic.
That's not
cell.
true.
I don't think there's any other reason to be against it than religion.
No, I don't agree. I mean, but that would lead into the abortion debate, which is a whole new show.
Or the reproductive
There
rights
are
debate.
people who don't believe in the religion who are against that.
Speaking
lot.
for a lot of atheists, I can tell you, a lot of atheists that I know.
Have you been to the meetings lately, Mark?
We don't have meetings. That's like, I went to an anarchist meeting in Chicago one time. It was great. There's a guy sitting up there, and I'd seen a 1920s movie earlier in the day, and it was a caricature, or 1930s, where this guy was going, down with the government, down with this, and this guy was kind of doing that, and then like 2 people he thought were cops walked in, and he goes, up with the government. Up with it. It was just kind of a strange thing.
That's funny.
But that was going off
So-
Rush Street and going into
Yeah, I was not aware about stem cells, but are these athletes that have been injured or
Yes.
Okay, they're injured. So,
Yeah,
and there
but-
are people use steroids who aren't injured, who are trying to bulk themselves up.
Yeah, but also people use human growth hormone that aren't athletes.
Right.
I mean, and it's perfectly legal if you're not an athlete to use.
If you're hurt too.
Well, or if you lack
Sometimes,
growth hormone.
Yeah.
Which
Well, they're
once you're
saying
born-
Lance Armstrong took erythropoietin, EPO, that causes your body to produce more red cells, which you can
Which
carry
is,
more
I
oxygen.
think, what McGuire used to.
Well, let's not. We got to name who the baseball players were who were suspended. It was Melky Cabrera of the Giants
and one of the Oakland
and
A's.
Bartolo Colon.
Yeah.
Cabrera went so
Colon's
far. Yeah, he's still pitching. Well, not anymore because he got 50 game
he's
suspension. But Melky Cabrera went so far as to set up a fake website. Because there's a defense in baseball where you can say, I bought it from this website and I didn't know it had a steroid in it or whatever. And so Cabrera set up a fake website to tell investigators, that's where I got this stuff. I didn't know it was it had steroids in it. I didn't know it was illegal under baseball rules. He said, how do you set up a fake website? You know, how do you set up a fake, what do we put on a website that sells steroids but not really?
I don't know, Jeff, but it sounds to me like he was an enterprising baseball player.
Yeah, you got to give him credit for creativity there, thinking ahead.
I wonder what tech person he used, Mark.
I don't know.
See, the baseball was playing checkers and Melky Cabrera was playing Russian roulette.
Yeah, there you go.
Our third story is about the Mars rover. We've got, welcome to Mars. How interesting that you are here. We have our space program, the last vestiges of it. While there's an international space station, there's also a Chinese space station being built.
Oh, cool.
I don't know if that's cool.
I don't think it's cool. Pretty much anything mainland China does is not cool
I think
anymore.
human endeavors into moving into one of the two last final frontiers is a positive thing.
They have no.
China,
there are a lot of people
ball,
who
man.
They have no intention of using it for peaceful purposes.
I don't know that you can say that. It just bothers me that there would be the United States and Russia working together on one space platform and China on another, and it seems like a natural basis for conflict.
Well, you can get Chinese takeout from them.
Well, what's picking up?
You don't need the excuse of a space station for conflict, and that's a perennial problem that hopefully sane minds will address. But the idea of space exploration and having a foothold in space for human beings to do this is an important growth for
the interesting thing here is that with NASA falling behind, spending more time on Muslim outreach than they are on actual space exploration, the private sector's picked up for it. We have at least 2 companies that have created spacecraft, and one of them has been used to actually go up and send supplies to the space station.
But that's not bad. I think if the government had started airplane aviation, at some point you would want a handoff. And I think you can debate the timing, but at some point you would want a handoff to private enterprise, and the government get out of the building of rockets. But to go to Mars, to explore the moon more, to go capture asteroids for mining purposes, these are all things that at this point in time are perfect for the government to be funding.
Yes, but
I agree with that.
Fact.
Don't introduce facts.
This is the last frontier. Fact.
No.
No.
There are 2 frontiers.
No.
The oceans.
Trying to Shatner.
You're absolutely.
Oh, I'm sorry. We do have 2 final frontiers: the oceans.
You're absolutely
and
right.
Space.
Yeah, but also we have a third frontier, and that is inside ourselves on a submolecular basis, knowing what we're doing inside our bodies.
It's hard to find spacecraft to travel there, though, unless you're on.
They did
Raquel Welch did it. In the Fantastic
She
Jury.
can do it. Anyone can do it.
Yes. Fantastic Jury. And then next week, Republican National Convention starts, and Sarah Palin won't be speaking there.
Is she
No,
invited?
but Mike
She
Huckabee.
wasn't invited.
Not invited at all.
No.
Well, she didn't seem to care. I mean, she didn't seem to want to go, actually.
The Republican numbers have improved. I've been watching the poll, and the last 2 weeks improved a lot. And after the convention, they always give a convention bump. The Republican ticket should be.
Well, unless Mike Huckabee actually goes through with speaking, and then they might not get a bounce.
Well, and Chris Christie's going to be there, and they're going to...
They'll get a bounce
He'll be
from
insulting
him.
somebody.
He'll be insulting the whole place, but there'll be a lot of takeout food places that will do a lot of business. This is the end of our first segment, and we'll be back in just a minute.
Saying the
That don't go